So good morning, everyone. This is David Strassner coming to you from my home in snowy, cold Rochester, New York. I know many of you are having snowy, cold weather right at the moment, and hopefully wherever you are right now, your weather is not too bad. And in some places, hopefully your weather is really nice and beautiful. I'd like to start this morning, as we always do, with a short prayer. So if we could please close our eyes. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Saksat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I humbly bow to my Gurudev, Paramahamsa Hariharananda. I humbly bow to my Guruji, Paramahamsa Pragyanananda. I humbly bow to our line of Kriya Yoga masters. I humbly bow to saints and sages of all religions. I humbly bow to all the divine incarnations in every place and in every time. I humbly bow to the people of the whole world, and especially to each one of you. And I humbly bow to God, God who is our Heavenly Father, our Divine Mother, our closest friend, our innermost self. Lord, please help us to enjoy abiding in thy presence together this morning. Om, amen. So I'm happy we're able to be together with each other in this way once again. It's been a little while since I've been on with you in one of these Zoom sessions. And before I started with the topic that I brought out for today, I'd like to answer a question from the last time that I did one of these Zoom sessions. It was a question that was sent in at the end via the chat feature, and there just wasn't time before the broadcast concluded for me to be able to type back an answer. And it's a question I know that more than one person has had. So I'm sitting here at home in my meditation room, and I'm sitting on the floor facing my altar of the gurus. And behind me over my head, there's a sign hanging over the closet doors. And the question from last time was, what does that sign say? So just so people don't sit there through the whole session squinting, trying to figure out what that sign says, and to answer the question, what it is, it's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it's a really beautiful quote. It reads, "Let us be silent that we may hear the whisper of God. Let us be silent that we may hear the whisper of God." So I think Mr. Emerson would have fit in quite nicely with us as yogis, because that is a very yogic sentiment. He, I think, could easily be a Kriyavan right along with us. So on to today's topic. If you saw in the email the name of today's subject matter, it said, read a little, meditate more, think of God all the time. I'm sure some of you have heard this quote before, and it is actually a quote from Paramahamsa Yogananda. This quote was transmitted to us through one of Yogananda's direct disciples, an American man named Roy Eugene Davis, which many of you already know about Mr. Davis. but he was a disciple of Yogananda's beginning when he was only 18 years old, and Mr. Davis just left his body about 3 years ago. We have had the good fortune to have Mr. Davis join us for a couple of our interfaith programs, primarily during the 100th birth centenary of our Gurudev, Hariharananda. And during that same time, he came and visited our Florida ashram and sat with all of us and gave a wonderful talk, which you can find on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Just put in the YouTube search, Roy Eugene Davis, Kriya Yoga Institute, and you'll find it, in a second scrolling down. It's really wonderful. And what's really great about it is seeing the love and respect and excitement of our Guruji Pragyanananda at having Mr. Davis there at our ashram in our presence. It was really a fantastic day. And not in this session, it was at a different time that he told us this quote. And he said that one of the times when he was with Yogananda and he was about to leave Yogananda and go back to the ashram where he was currently staying, Yogananda's parting words of advice and wisdom directly one-on-one to him was this quote: read a little, meditate more, think of God all the time. It really is the prescription for our entire spiritual life, our entire spiritual practice. You can look at it in a very broad sense as the structure for how we go about growing spiritually. So what we're going to do today is we're also going to use it as the structure for our time together. So in this 45 minutes to an hour session, we are going to read a little, meditate more, and work on thinking of God all the time. So before I start that actual process, let's just think very briefly about the quote itself. It starts with read a little. Why to read? Why only a little? Wouldn't you think more knowledge is better? We should read everything that's ever written under the sun? Or maybe on the other hand, you could think, I'm a meditator, I don't need to read anything, I just need to do what I'm told and do the practice. And really the wisdom is in the balance between the two. Our gurus don't want us to be blind followers. They want us to engage our minds, to try the best we can to have some understanding about what we're doing, about where we're trying to go, about the practices that we're doing. Even though the intellect can only take us so far in the spiritual world, we should use it as a tool. And through the reading that we do, we can not only gain some level of understanding, we can gain inspiration when it's needed. We can learn about the lives of the saints and the realized beings so that we may try to follow them better. We may even have the experience sometimes, I know I've had it many times, and I'm sure many of you have had it as well, where there's something that's troubling you, there's something that's on your mind, and you pick up one of the spiritual books out of your library and you open it up to a random page and the answer is right there for you. That's God and Guru's grace, I feel, coming through at that moment. And it's really a beautiful thing. But we don't need to read everything under the sun and try to understand intellectually before we move forward in any way. People get stuck thinking they need to have complete intellectual understanding before they can do anything. The issue is there are too many mysteries in this process we're engaged in. There's too much paradox. There's too much that you have to let go and just do it and have faith at times. And Gurudev used to say a very nice things. He says, if all you do is read books and read books, do you know what you will be? A bookworm. So he's saying that merely intellectual understanding is not enough to gain spiritual enlightenment. So we move on to the next. Reading a little is good. Do it, enjoy it. Let it expand your horizons, but then move on to meditate more. Meditate more, meaning doing our practice is what actually creates change within us. It actually gives us the direct experience of the divine presence. It gives us the direct experience of our true nature. And it is the heart of the support in our spiritual journey is our practice. So we do our practice. It's more important than reading. Not that reading is totally unimportant, but doing the practice is more. As we've all heard, one of Gurudev's expressions, practice, 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 practice will make you perfect. And so Baba was very, very focused on the practical application of our spiritual lives, not just theoretical understanding. So read a little, meditate more, do your practice, and think of God all the time. How to think of God all the time. Well, when we do our meditation here in a moment, when we're coming back out of our meditation time, I'll try to give some hints and some ways to help you move into that awareness of the presence of God all the time. It's something all of us are just trying to make progress with. We're all trying to remember when we often forget, but it is a very key part of our spiritual lives because it's something that we are practicing all the time, not just during the formal times we're sitting on our mat to meditate. So think of God all the time. And what you'll find, and we'll hopefully feel a little of this towards the end of our meditation, that when Yoganandaji said, think of God all the time, we need to understand that his word think, it's not that we're constantly engaged with mental activity. The mind is not constantly thinking about God. Oh, what does God look like? Is he got a long white beard? Is he sitting on a cloud? Is he playing a harp? What is not thinking, where it's actually a state of being ultimately that is achieved. But I think where most of us are right now in our practice, most of us are on this edge. We're on this edge where we need to engage the mind a little bit to keep us focused in that awareness. But at the same time, we need to be cultivating that effortless perception continually of the presence of God. So on one side of this edge, the mind has to keep working at it a little bit, but on the other side of the edge, we can feel at the same time that there is a beingness to it that is there, that we are trying to inch towards. So let's start our actual structure of our little practice. We're going to start with read a little, and I'm going to read you something. This piece that I'm going to read you is actually something that I wrote. The Yogacharyas were all asked to write a little piece to be included in a commemorative book for the 100th anniversary of Paramahamsa Yogananda coming to America. So as we all know, that was in 2020 was that anniversary. And we had many activities, many retreats, many things planned. And of course, because of COVID-19, those plans all had to be canceled. And so this commemorative book, as far as I know, has never been produced or at least distributed. So I had written this piece about it. And the reason it came to my mind was a few weeks ago, it was Yogananda's birthday on January 5th. And it happened to coincide with the night that we have our weekly Rochester group Zoom meditation and satsang. So I thought, I'd written this thing, I'd never shared it with anybody. It's Yoganandaji's birthday, and we're getting together for our Zoom session. I'll pull this out and read it to everybody. And so that's how it kind of came back into my mind that I had this thing, and then thinking about what to talk about today, I thought that might be a nice little thing to share with all of you in our read a little portion of our day. So I'm just going to lean over here and grab it because I forgot to pull it out of the drawer over here. Unfortunately, it was right on top. I didn't have to go digging for it. So So the title of this is 100 Years Ago. And as we remember, Yoganandaji first arrived in Boston in 1920. And, the Boston group had a wonderful program, a wonderful retreat scheduled for that. And it's such a shame that it wasn't able to happen in its fullness. But I feel in the future there will be more opportunities. We're going to get through this COVID thing and we'll be able to gather together again. So this is reading a little. 100 years ago. Feel yourself there, Boston Harbor, 100 years ago, looking at the dock, seeing the exact moment the foot of Swami Yogananda first touched America. That moment was a moment of profound connection of East and West, connection of cultures, religions, and philosophies, connection of one way of understanding and being with a radically different way of understanding and being. It was a seismic shift in the future of America and all the Western countries, happening quietly in that moment with that one footstep. Paramahamsa Yogananda, as the Swami would come to be known, carried a huge load with him to America. Even though he arrived with barely any possessions, he carried with him the totality of India's spiritual heritage. The spiritual legacy of India lived in Yoganandaji in his mind and intellect, in his love and devotion, and most importantly, in his spiritual realization. And as he stepped off that ship onto that dock, the spirituality of thousands of years in India was connected to us in the West. Think of the lives changed by that connection. Countless thousands of lives in the Western countries were changed by reading Yoganandaji's writings, listening to his talks, practicing his teachings, being in his presence. My life was changed, maybe yours was too. Paramahamsa Yogananda connected to a vast Western audience, spreading far and wide the teachings of yoga, Vedanta, and what has come to be known as the perennial philosophy, the reality that the source of all being, that which we call God, can be experienced, known, awakened to. that through our own effort, we can move towards and ultimately realize the state of consciousness that opens to us the nature of reality, not merely as intellectual understanding, but as direct firsthand experience. Yoganandaji opened many Western minds to the truth that this evolution of consciousness, this awakening to our oneness with God, is the core of all the great religions of the world. The seeming differences between the religions are just varied garments dressing the same spiritual process. He showed us how saints from all the different traditions speak the same language of peace, love, and union with the divine. And he taught all of us how to follow in the footsteps of the saints, the masters, the enlightened ones, so that on our own spiritual journey, we could achieve what they did. Many times when we think of Paramahamsa Yogananda, we picture this famous, larger-than-life figure, a God-realized master, world teacher, almost mythical being who smiles sweetly at us from the cover of his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And indeed, he is all those things, but he was also something else. He was a real, living, breathing human being. He endured many difficulties, trials, and hardships when he came here to help us. Our gratitude should only be surpassed by our effort to understand and practice his teachings. If you wish to deepen your connection to Yoganandaji, again, think of his foot as he stepped off the ship and first touched America. But now imagine that foot is right in front of you, giving you the opportunity to bow to the great Kriya Yoga master, to receive his blessings, and to feel the presence of both his humanness and divineness. So this was our read a little. So we should move now to meditate more, the next step. So let us calmly close the eyes. Let us take 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Take a long, deep inhalation. Pause for a moment and then exhale. Again, inhale slow and deep. Pause. Exhale. Relax the body a little more as you exhale. And one more time, inhale. Pause. Exhale. Now let the breath be normal. And we'll start from the densest, the grossest manifestation of this creation. Feel where it is you are sitting. Feel the cushion or the chair underneath you. If you're leaning back against something, feel how you are perceiving that chair. If there are any other perceptions in the body, just be aware of them. Feel the whole physical body. Try to let it relax a little more. We all know the feeling of being content. So try to let that feeling of contentment arise in the body, in the whole body. Then moving to a little more subtle of a place. Feel the movement in the body as the breath is coming in and going out. Can feel the lungs filling and emptying, or the chest rising and falling, the belly expanding and contracting, the air coming in and out of the nose. In whatever way you're watching the breath. More and more you feel muscles in the body start to relax. Breath is coming in and going out. We're moving a little more into a subtle realm. The emotions. If you're feeling some way, just observe it. No need to judge it. If you're feeling relaxed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling joyful, if you're feeling bored, just observe it. No need to judge it. The body, the breath, the emotions, slowly settling. And going more subtle. Observe the state of the mind. Are thoughts moving in the mind? Again, just observe them. No need to judge them. Slowly, slowly, the mind comes to rest. And proceeding to become more subtle. Listen inside the head. Can you perceive some divine sound ringing or rumbling inside the head? Can you perceive some kind of subtle illumination inside the head? Either in the top of the head or inside the forehead or in between the two eyebrows? And can you feel something moving? The divine vibration moving in the whole body or in the spine or in the top of the head. The light, sound, vibration, the most subtle manifestation of this creation. Whatever you're perceiving, either one of these or two or all three, allow your awareness to absorb more and more into that. And as you sit, you may start to have the feeling that you have no desire to move. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. Becoming quiet, perceiving the living presence of God. It's so subtle. That's why we need to become quiet and still. But it is always there. We are never separate from it. As you become more absorbed, you may feel some spontaneous feeling of love arising. Love for God, love from God. Open yourself to it. inwardly open and open. Receive God's unconditional love for you. But we can become even more subtle. The place we are in now, we are loving God. God is loving us, and we are receiving that love. But there is two-ness. There is you and there is God. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Corresponds to the sixth center, the soul center. But we can move from that place. Start to feel inside of that light, sound, vibration, whatever is revealing itself to you. Perceive that within that there is a stillness. Within it, behind it, beyond it, whatever words are only hints. They can't say exactly, but somewhere there, deeper, there is a stillness. Feel that. And in that stillness, you go from giving love and receiving love to being love. You go from your relationship with God to union with God, to being in the oneness. Thou art that. This state corresponds with the seventh center, the God center on the top of the head. So Gurudev used to say, anywhere from the sixth center up to the top of the head is the divine kingdom. So we can move in and out of loving God in relationship and praying to God, to merging in God and being in the oneness. So let us just sit for a few more moments and just be. Now slowly bring the awareness back to the top of the head, just touching the top of the head, but remain in that peace and quietness. Keep the eyes closed. And now we move into the final part of the quote. Think of God all the time. So we read a little, we meditated more. Now we're going to think of God all the time. Right now, you are in a place where you can perceive the living power of God, as our Gurudev Hariharananda used to call it. The living power of God, the living presence of God. So maintain that awareness, that indescribable state of consciousness. You can feel it, you can perceive it, but you really can't describe it accurately. But try to hang on to that gently. And then going inside, we're again being aware of any light, sound, or vibration that we can perceive. We're going from the formless into the form. The light, sound, and vibration are the first, most subtle manifestations of form arising out of the formless. When we perceive them inside ourselves, they are the presence of God. Then going to a little more gross, a little more dense form, the thoughts. You can perceive that the mind is there waiting to function. And you can see the state of it. It's probably more quiet than usual at the moment. But Gurudev used to tell us, thoughts and God are one. Good thoughts as well as bad thoughts, any thoughts, he would say, are coming from God. We should keep the good thoughts and ask God to take the bad ones back. Emotions. There might be some type of emotion you're feeling inside at the moment, but you know all of the different emotions that come and go. They are also the presence of God. Why? Because Hariharananda told us there is no non-God. Everything that is a manifestation of God's presence, always one, never separate. So if you're still feeling that awareness of the presence, still there a little in the background, even though now we have some awareness of the triple divine qualities, the mind, the emotions, the senses are next. More dense, more gross. The act of hearing, the act of tasting, the touch sensation, the smell. The eyes are still closed. We will get to those in a moment. Then start to feel the body. Can feel the, as Gurudev used to call it, the body volume. The whole body is there. Feel that indescribable presence that you were abiding in. It's still there. As you perceive the body, know that it is also the presence of God. Remember, no non-God, as Gurudev said. So whatever the condition of the mind, the body, the senses, the emotions, the path that we're walking is to try to observe them, be aware of them, not judge them. In fact, love them. Why? Because it is all the presence of God. Even any sensation in the body, one of your knees is aching from sitting right now, or your back hurts a little, or you have an itch on your forehead. All of that is also a manifestation of God. So whatever we perceive in whatever way, let it keep you attuned to his presence. Then slowly open the eyes. What do you see right in front of you? You could see the device on which you are watching me. You could see the pictures that are on your wall behind it. And the whole field of vision, what is there? There's some furniture, the floor. Still feel that presence in the background, because everything you're seeing through the eyes is also God manifesting in all of these forms. Gurudev used to say to us, seer, sight, and seen are one. So this is thinking of God all the time. Gurudev also used to say it as constant alertness of the inner self. He would say watch. All the time you watch. Watch who is the doer. Watch who is moving through you. Watch who is manifesting everything. Nothing is not God. And let us slowly close the eyes once again. We will pray to God and Gurus. Oh God, oh Gurus, thank you for giving us this time together. Please help us on our spiritual journey. Help us to have calmness and inner alertness of the divine presence in every step of our lives. May your blessings rest upon us all. Om, amen. Let us continue to keep the eyes closed. And as our Guruji Pragyanananda has requested, let us chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra 5 times. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Peace, peace, peace be with you all. Thank you, everyone. Nice to spend a little time with you on Sunday morning. Let us all try to move about, feeling the living presence of God manifesting through us, watching the breath, as our gurus have said. And as our Guruji Pragyanananda has said, to try to be loving people, loving the creation. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to look up at your comments as we head out. So nice to hear from all of you.